right, everyone, welcome to Our Shot. I'm State Representative Greg Meyer, and I'm excited to be with you tonight. I've been looking forward to this since we announced this in December. There's been a lot of people working to help bring this to you. I've appreciated all of the contributions that have come from the online community in making this happen. I know we've got a bunch of watch parties going on out there. Just so proud to have you all here. So a couple things I need you to do right now. Share this right now. You can click the share button on the video. It'll be sharing live on your Facebook page so that people out there who are checking your page or just seeing what you're doing, they'll be able to see that you're doing this. Don't forget to like my page if you haven't done that already, but go ahead and hit that share button and get this out here right now. What are we going to do tonight? On Our Shot, we're trying to gather people from around North Carolina to think about what do we have to do to use this 2017 special elections to have an opportunity to take back the North Carolina legislature, build the Democratic bench. Who are we trying to engage? We want people who are newly energized after the 2016 elections and are trying to figure out, what can I do? How can I make a difference? How can I be involved? And we want veterans, the Democrats that have been working for years, people who have contributed hours and time and money and are feeling like, why haven't we gotten more progress? We want everybody to be on the same page working on this. So if you have a watch party, I've got my little stream up here. I want you to go ahead and put in the comments where your watch party is, how many people you have with you. We want to know what you got going on, who's with you. Let's see who's out there watching. And at some point, everybody take a chance and look at this page, gregmeyer.com/ourshot. This is going to be your landing page for tonight. We got some resources for you here, things that you're going to want to be able to respond to after the video is over. But if you got the chance, you can look at that as well. So let's see if I have the chance to catch any of the watch parties. Wow, the comments are coming quickly. I'm not sure that my iPad can even catch up. But we got people in Durham, North Raleigh. Brendan's out there. Lanya's in Durham. Ernest in Durham. Troy, my friend Troy up in Swift Creek. That's great. Melvin Williams, who puts out the good news about Democrats, is watching. Love that you all are out there. I'm so glad you have these going on. Wow, we even got a friend, Helen Johnson's watching from Florida. So fantastic. If you're having a watch party, you're going to be able to go to gregmeyer.com, Our Shot, at the end of the night, and there's a discussion guide on there. We're asking to collect some feedback from watch parties, so before you send everybody home, make sure you're doing that. For anyone who's out there, we're going to get to a point in a few minutes where we're going to be able to submit questions. We're going to ask you to submit questions. I'm going to have Chaz Beasley and Jessica Holmes here with me, and they'll be able to answer some of your questions about things. So get ready to put that in through the Facebook Live interface. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. What are we doing here tonight? What do we want to talk about? We are here because Our Shot to take back North Carolina begins right now. We know that we need a change in political power in North Carolina. We know that the power has been out of balance, that the Republicans controlling the legislature have used gerrymandered districts to maintain majority control, and that control has been harming our state. We're really glad to have Attorney General Roy Cooper become now Governor Roy Cooper, and we have to build on that to help him by taking back the legislature, and we can use this opportunity to build out our bench in municipal elections in 2017 as well. This is a year for us to push back for sanity, balance, reason, and to fight for families, to push for jobs, to work on education for North Carolinians. So this is our shot, not just meaning this isn't about Greg Meyer, but our meaning this is me and you and everyone out there. This is our collaborative effort to bring North Carolina back to sanity, back to a middle. This is a purple state. We need to get back to sane, reasonable government. By the end of tonight's show, we're going to talk about three big things. We're going to talk about how we recruit candidates for this year's elections. We're going to talk about how to mobilize voters to make sure that we take advantage of the 2017 special legislative election and our municipal elections. And we're going to talk about the ways that we raise money that help us get to victories so that come November 2017, we have success. All right, so let me get started by recapping where we are legislatively over the last couple weeks. This is our shot in 2017 because the Republicans have gone too far and people are fed up. We've been under Republican control for 6 years in the legislature, 4 years under the former Republican governor who shall not be named. During that time, what have we had? Disastrous legislation like House Bill 2 that's hurt our citizens and hurt our economy. Enough laws passed that have been unconstitutional by the legislative Republicans that the state has wasted $10 million on defending laws in suits where the legislature has been found to have done things that are unconstitutional. How have they gotten away with all of this? Because they've had gerrymandered districts. In 2010, when the Republicans won the elections in the backlash against the Obama presidency, they then got to hold the pen that drew the maps for the next 10 years. And over the last 6 years, they used those maps that they drew to have supermajorities in the legislature that mean that they have actual more political power than the number of votes that should have granted them. And so we've had this far-right agenda that's been overreaching on everything. House Bill 2 and taking away Governor Cooper's powers, changing the State Board of Elections, changing the way that our education governance is done, all these things over the last few weeks because they have such big majorities. Now is our time. The Republicans made one of the classic blunders of a majority party in the last couple weeks. They overreached. They took away the governor's powers in broad daylight. Voters hate that. That is an opportunity for us to make the argument that Democrats would be more reasonable in leadership. We need to elect different people. It's time for us to be loud and to be proud and to get out there and talk about why a Democratic agenda following on Governor Cooper is better for families, better for jobs, better for education in North Carolina. The 2017 election is our shot. This is the special election. Because the Republicans used gerrymandered districts and they got sued in court over those, the federal courts have decided that there should be a new set of maps drawn in 2017 and that those maps will lead to a 2017 special legislative election. Then we have regular elections in 2018 and 2020. So that gives us 3 elections in the next 4 years. Plenty of time to build a movement and have momentum to keep going. So what's going to happen in 2017? I've got a few cues here for you to understand what's going on. The courts have ordered that by March 15th, we have to have new legislative districts drawn and a process for special elections this year. So we're kind of moving ahead, presuming this is going to be the case, that by March 15th, we'll know where the new lines are and we'll be ready to run campaigns this year. The courts can always change that. Number one, the Republicans sued to stop that this week, and it's possible we'll see within the next couple weeks of whether they can get an injunction on this timetable. But also, because the Republicans control the legislature now, and the governor has no say-so in redistricting, when they get to draw maps by March 15th, this unconstitutional majority that they have will be the people who are drawing the maps. The new maps will have to go before the federal district court for review, and the federal court will have to say whether they're okay or not. So at some point after March 15th, we'll actually know from the courts whether this is going forward. Assuming that happens, then we get to primaries sometime in August or September. You probably recognize that North Carolina has almost never had a primary in August or September except under special circumstances. What this is going to mean for us in legislative districts is that we're going to have a very compact campaign season. New districts in March, primaries in the late summer, and then a general election in November. Regular election time this year, it'll be on November 7th. And so we are going to have to get ready, get everything up and moving quickly. Campaigns that normally have 2 years are going to have just a matter of months to get going. And that's why we're going to need your help to make this happen. We're going to have to mobilize more quickly than we ever have. We also have the benefit of moving ahead to 2018 elections. And so we're going to get up and running in 2017, keep going right through 2018. Couple important things we have to do. We have to spread the field with 170 candidates for legislative districts. We need candidates in every House seat and every seat in the Senate so that we make sure that even in places where it's going to be difficult to win, we're holding down Republicans and trying to get them to at least spend some time and energy in defending, and who knows what will happen. Also, it's an off-year election, And in off-year elections, turnout tends to be low. And so think about if you go back to 2014, the last off-year legislative election, in the turnout was only 45% of all voters, whereas in 2016 it was 69%. In my district, the turnout in 2014 was only 68% of what it was in 2016. In Chaz Beasley's district, it was only 53% of what it was in 2016. So there's a lot of people who vote in a presidential year who don't usually vote in an off year. And if we can mobilize them, if we can get those people who voted for Democrats in 2016 to come out and vote again in 2017, it becomes a much easier year for us to win races all over the state. Races that weren't competitive in 2016 can be competitive in 2017 if we just boost our turnout. It's a great opportunity. But we also have a bigger opportunity, which is to get to better messages and better candidates and take advantage of a Trump backlash, because we're going to be able to mobilize people who maybe thought they were going to get something out of the 2016 elections and weren't able to get it. So task number one for us is to recruit great candidates. Here's where I need your help. And let me just say this before I move on. Remember, you're watching Our Shot. I'm Greg Meyer. You want to go to gregmeyer.com/ourshot for more resources on these things. And here we go on how we recruit great candidates. We want to look for people who can run this year in legislative seats for those competitive special elections and in our municipal elections to help build the Democratic bench. We want good people, people who will listen to their community, people who love their community. We want people who are committed to good jobs, committed to public education, committed to common sense government things like nonpartisan redistricting and universal voter registration. We need people who are able to get out there and condense the Democratic message down to some very simple themes that make people feel like their families are respected, they're included in what our society can do, and that our state works best when it works for all of us. So when you're looking at in your community, you're thinking, who would I like to see run? I want you to think about people who have a great network, that they know a lot of people that they can use for volunteers or for donors, people who have a reputation that other people would look at them and say, I want that person to represent me. And then I want you to go to them and I want you to say, you know what, this is our shot and you should run. That simple statement of encouraging someone by saying you should run makes a huge psychological difference to someone who has always thought, I wish things could be different, but I don't think I'm the right person. Sometimes we have to help people see that in themselves. And so I want you to go to, if you know people, if you want to run, this is where if you want to run, I want you to go to pipeline.ncdp.org. And the North Carolina Democratic Party has set up this project to get people to sign up and say, I'm interested in running, this is who I am, and this is what I want to run for, and the party is going to reach out to you and help walk you through the process of what it takes to get ready to run. If you find someone that you think should run, then you can encourage them to go here, or go ahead and go and send me their contact information, and we'll make sure we have somebody who reaches out to them. Once we have people who are ready to run, we're going to make sure that they're prepared and supported. So we're working with an organization called Lead NC. And if you're interested in having training on what it would take to be a candidate and you're not even sure if you want to do it, you can go to leadnc.org tonight, sign up for their Getting Ready to Run trainings. Sometime in January, February, they're going to have trainings. And you can go to those just to see if, would I really want to do this? What would it take for me to be able to pull this off? And Lead NC will be able to provide you with additional training and support. Another great website I have linked on gregmeyer.com/ourshot is an online training site called traindemocrats.org. So there's help out there. We're going to get you ready to run in 2017 and help you for legislative seats run in 2017 and 2018 and 2020. Take advantage of this special election opportunity. All right, again, you're watching Our Shot with Greg Meyer. Here's strategy number 2. We've got to mobilize voters by facing outward. Since the presidential election, I know that a lot of us have felt like we wanted to turn towards each other. We want to take care of each other. We want to heal some wounds. We can't believe what happened and that we elected this guy to be president. But turning inward is not the way the Democrats win. We have to turn outwards, open our doors, get into our communities. There's been amazing online organizing happening around this. I've seen all of these grassroots groups sprout up all over on Facebook who are organizing their communities, but we got to go from online to on the ground. It's time for turning outward. Voter contact can begin now and continue all the way through November 7th and all the way through the 2018 elections. I'd encourage you to go to ncdp.org, North Carolina Democratic Party's website. On my page, gregmeyer.com/ourshot, you'll find a link that'll take you directly to the site on their page that lists all of the county parties and other auxiliaries, so you can find out who should you get connected with that can help you organize voters. The Democratic Party, a lot of times people talk to me and they'll say, the Democratic Party should do this, the Democratic Party should do that. The Democratic Party is not a top-down organization. It's a bottom-up organization, particularly in local counties. It's made up of people like you and me who volunteer. For 10 years before I was in the legislature, I spent time volunteering with my local Democratic Party. I did lots of great things that helped me learn how to work on campaigns and get ready to run, and I helped elect lots of great people that I really believe in as leaders. And it takes people like you to get out there and help make the party work. The county party is usually the closest way to organize, but to you, you want to get connected at your precinct. Your precinct is your smallest area of organization. We have precinct meetings in the Democratic Party that come up in the spring, and normally it's a handful of Democrats, loyal Democrats, who get together in a church basement somewhere, maybe somebody's house or a coffee shop, and they sit and they talk to each other. Let's use these opportunities to turn outward. Let's gather at that meeting spot and then go ahead and move on and go to knock on people's doors in your community and ask them, what do they want to talk about? What do they want Democrats to know? And then let's think about how to mobilize and have Democrats show up in places where people don't necessarily expect to have political activity, but just be present and be listening to our community. If there's some places having a food drive for people who were impacted by a disaster, make sure the Democrats are helping bring food. If there's a community barbecue that's raising money for a good cause, make sure the Democrats show up and help raise money for that cause. When you go to your kids' athletic events, or when you're sitting at the bar on Friday afternoon with a bunch of people from your neighborhood or from your community, just be there and ask them, what are you thinking about right now? Be open to finding ways to make connections to them, to bring us and our values into their lives. We've got to find a way to connect with the community starting now, going all the way through November 7th and all the way through November 2018, because this election cycle is going to be continuous. One thing we're going to come back to in another episode of Our Shot is a way that you can do DIY, do-it-yourself voter mobilization. So your local party can be a great place to start, but you can also just get any group of people to get out there and do it. We're going to bring you some tools on an episode soon. All right, here's item number 3 on Our Shot. Elections take money. A lot of people on our side of the aisle hate the impact of money on elections. I personally would love to see Citizens United go the way of the dodo bird. But we're in a game right now that needs to be won, and we can't afford to not play it. And in order to play this game, we have to raise money. We have to have the influence that money will get us to make money less influential. It sounds silly, but that's really what we have to do. For a typical state house race, someone has to raise probably about $150,000 to $400,000 to be able to win a campaign in 2017. It's a lot of money, especially for a job where our base salary is only less than $14,000 a year. You might ask, why would anyone do it? But people believe in this and they're willing to put their time into it. But none of us, no candidate can raise that money all by ourselves just by calling people on the phone or sending out emails. It takes communities to help bring it together. So I want you to think about, what did you do in 2016 for giving? Did you give money to a presidential candidate? Did you give money to a congressional candidate? Did you give money to legislative or municipal candidates? And recognize that in 2017, we have tremendous leverage. If you want to change gerrymandered districts that impact Congress and determine what happens to the fate of the United States and help us push back against the Trump presidency, investing in legislative races is the way to make that impact right now. If you're thinking about how do Democrats take a long-term process to rebuild the way that I am, then investing in municipal candidates who are our bench is the way to make an impact on that right now. Even if you can't give a lot, how can you be a fundraiser? What can you do to combine with other people in your community to help raise money? Back in the 2008 Obama election, I spent time with a bunch of other people who didn't have much money, like I didn't have much money. We threw parties for Obama. We had a birthday party for him. We had people bake cakes, and we auctioned off these birthday cakes for Obama. And over the course of that year, I wasn't able to give more than a couple $100s by myself, but I raised $20,000 for the campaign by working with other people. What can you do to help us with that this year? The one thing that I'm going to ask you to do tonight is, if you like this enough, if you find that this is helpful and you want to see us continue, then please make a donation to my campaign of $17 for 2017. You can go to gregmeyer.com/ourshot. You'll find a link there to go ahead and donate. We have some production costs for this. We want to keep it going through the year. We want to be able to keep bringing this to you. And whatever we raise that goes beyond what it takes to do the shows, I guarantee we're going to use it to recruit great candidates, mobilize volunteers, and win elections this year. So if you can give $17 for 2017, you can do that at gregmeyer.com. If you're really generous, you could sign up as a monthly sustaining donor at $17 a month through the election, and that'll help us carry this series all the way through. So recruit candidates, mobilize voters, make sure that we have enough money to win elections. That's the game plan. Next up, we're going to take your questions. We're going to go to a little break right now, and I'm going to bring up Chaz Beasley and Jessica Holmes, and we'll be ready to hear from you and see what you want to talk about on Our Shot. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Greg Meyer, and this is Our Shot. I'm a state representative from Orange County, and I have with me two other elected officials, my good friends Jessica Holmes, a county commissioner from Wake County, and Chaz Beasley, a newly elected member of the North Carolina House from Mecklenburg County. And they've been following along to see what you've been asking online. I'm going to start with Jessica. Jessica, just give us quickly a little bit about yourself and tell us what question caught your eye first.
Well, for starters, I am a local elected official. I'm a Wake County commissioner. I represent over 1 million constituents as the youngest ever elected commissioner in Wake County's history. So when I saw this question from Matthew Lamar Mills regarding what's the best way to reach out to your local political leadership, especially when you're on opposing ideological views, my suggestion as a local elected official is to actually do it. A lot of people will vent about local issues on Facebook, but your local elected official is probably not checking your Facebook. So send your local elected officials an email. You also have the opportunity to show up and speak on the record during public comments. At every single board meeting, we have an opportunity for the public to speak to us. So we actually listen, and we actually do respond to emails, especially if you can get your mother or your cousin or your friends and your family members to all send emails to your local elected officials about a different issue, then that's going to be heard. What I do not advise doing is sending those sort of chain emails where you just sort of sign your name and your elected official gets 1,000 of those. But when you send a personalized email to your elected official, it'll be on the record.
I wish that the General Assembly had public comment like your local elected officials do, but the Republicans we have right now don't usually like public comment. So take the rest of the advice for talking to the General Assembly. Chaz, what are you looking at? Tell us a little bit about yourself before you jump in, too.
So I'm North Carolina born and raised. I was actually raised in the foothills of North Carolina, but I live in Mecklenburg County now, representing District 92, 93,000 people. I'm very honored to be able to get started next Wednesday, believe it or not. So we actually have a question about something that may come up in the General Assembly here in the next few weeks from Chris Kramer. Or are we pushing a bill to stop legislators from making their own district lines? So this is something that comes up in every single General Assembly session. But it's key to remember that these are the types of ideas that we need to push if we're able to get back to a Democratic majority. So although it may not happen now, by putting people in the General Assembly who believe in these types of ideas, things that are common sense, things that will level the playing field and allow for the competition that makes candidates better, those are the kinds of things that we can actually make happen. I actually ran in a competitive seat and went from red to blue. A lot of folks who worked super hard to make that happen. I think I became a better candidate by being in a competitive district. And I think if we have more competition in all of our districts, it will be better for the entire state.
I think we've got to make it an election issue this year. I mean, if we have candidates that go out and they pledge to say, I'm going to support nonpartisan redistricting, and they make it one of the biggest things that's being discussed in their race, it's going to make sure that whoever wins is something that's on the table. And it's popular with Democrats and Republicans. There's no reason not to do it. Yeah. All right, Jessica, you got another one?
So as the education law attorney, I see a couple teachers. Hey to all my North Carolina teachers out there. But specifically, John Brian Heath made a comment that I'd like to discuss. He said we need more educators in the North Carolina General Assembly, people that understand what it's really like every day in our schools. We need less disconnect between the classroom and the General Assembly. So I wanted to shout out that comment in particular because I think you're right. I think we do need more educators in the General Assembly. And also we need more members of the General Assembly who will listen to educators. So as an education law attorney, I work very closely with teachers in Wake County. I have a couple teachers that I actually keep on speed dial. So anytime there's an issue regarding education and education policy, then what do? I call a teacher. So I think more elected officials, even if you're not an educator, need to have a closer relationship with our educators, and we need to ask them about the issues that impact them most.
I spent 18 years working in North Carolina's public schools and care very much about that. My wife is a public school teacher. I think that educators can win in this current political climate. Education has been such a hot political topic for the last few years, particularly retired educators that have 30 years of students and families that they can connect with and be their volunteer base. I would love to see some of those people sign up to run for legislative seats.
It's tremendously important. In fact, we need more people in the General Assembly that come from many different parts of our state. We have a diverse state. We need a diverse General Assembly too.
Yeah. Chaz, you got another one for us?
Sure. So one question from Susan Bush. Our county is very blue. How do we help other places in NC? So one of the things that I'm really proud that Greg is doing is he lives in a pretty blue county, but he's still taking time, although he's in a safer seat, to get the message out there and push. So North Carolina has a lot of different nooks and crannies. I grew up in the rural part of the state, although I live in an urban part of the state right now. I encourage you, if you see any candidates wherever they may be in North Carolina, feel free to hop in your car and ask them if they need to knock on doors or make some calls from your own house. There's a lot of different ways for you to get involved, and that's just a couple of ways.
The two counties that I represent, Orange and Durham, are really the only two counties that are probably absolutely safe for Democrats. If you're in Mecklenburg County, if you're in Wake County, if you're in Buncombe County, there's going to be competitive elections, whether they're in 2017 or 2018. And so people have a chance to make a difference where they are for the most part. In Orange and Durham, I'll come talk to you at my local Democratic Party meetings. We'll talk about what we're going to do. Jessica, what else do you have?
I actually see one of my favorite Wake County teachers. She's watching, Angela Scioli, as well as Brendan Fetters. I want to take a moment of personal privilege of being a Tar Heel, a double Tar Heel. I see that we have a Chapel Hill watch party with Marilyn Carter, who's joined with Jim and Becca and Andrea and several of her neighbors. So shout out to the Chapel Hill team that's watching with us tonight. So Carolyn Mitchell mentioned that we need to simply listen to the voters' voices. So that's one of the things that I believe has been something that we haven't been doing very well, at least with this General Assembly. So the voters spoke very loudly when, for example, they elected Governor Roy Cooper. It's really exciting to be able to say that at this point. And almost immediately, there was sort of a backlash from the General Assembly. So how are voters supposed to trust the elected officials that they put in place when this type of thing ends up happening? And I'll throw that question to you.
Well, I mean, I feel like listening is the best way to bring anyone to your cause. Democrats have lots of strong beliefs, and we don't need to shy away from those beliefs. But we also don't have to be shoving those down people's throats in order for those beliefs to hold sway. I think about it just recently, I was in a line in a coffee shop, and a guy who told me that he voted for Trump also told me about some of the things that the North Carolina General Assembly has done that hurt his small business, raising sales taxes on service industry and changing the way small business taxes work. And so, you know, he was understanding what was happening and being heard, and all I had to do was listen to him long enough to be able to find the place where we had common ground, and I could get him to say, well, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'd appreciate your support on. And he was like, yeah, man, absolutely. And so sometimes you just have to start with the listening.
Absolutely.
Chaz, you got something?
Yep. So Diane Rodelli says, how do we make the red counties blue? I'm in Durham. It's safe here, but we need to impact the rest of the state. Well, I grew up in a red part of North Carolina, and I can tell you one of the best things that we can do is to remember the fact that a small rudder moves big ships and big doors are moved by small hinges. So we need to make sure that we're actually present in these counties, that we're actually going to these counties, that we're not giving them up and taking them for granted, because guess what? One vote for Roy Cooper in Robeson County goes just as far as Mecklenburg County, and one in Alexander County goes just as far as it does in Orange County. So it's important to remember we have 10 million people in North Carolina, and that we need to think about every single one of them, regardless of whether or not they may lean red or blue.
Absolutely. We also have one of your teachers, one of the teachers in Durham, Nashonda Cook.
All right,
Nice.
Nashonda.
Also, a question from Leonardo Williams. He asked about community forums to educate people on what's going on at the local and state level. And for example, in Wake County, we started sort of a series of community forums where we actually go out into the community and host forums. But I think it's also key to remember that not all of our voters are going to come to us. So that's why I think this is sort of a brilliant idea. So we're coming to voters in your living rooms right now, on your cell phones, on your iPads, on your TV, as we've seen in the screen in Chapel Hill. So I think we have to be overall more creative about how we interact with voters and step outside of just the traditional form and start using avenues like social media to make sure that we get our message across.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to talk about what we believe in public. You know, we know that it's a contentious time to talk about politics. We know the presidential election left a lot of people with raw feelings, and there's been some ugliness. But we can't win without getting out there and talking about our values.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that we can do right now is, if you know any of your friends who are interested in what we're talking about, we're on Facebook, but go on Twitter, go on Instagram, spread the word in many different arenas. I mean, we would love to have more people join in, and keep your questions coming.
Yeah. You got one more?
So a comment while I'm looking here is when Michelle Obama said that, you know, when they go low, we go high. She wasn't just talking about morally. I think she was also talking about going higher strategically, going higher in terms of making contributions to candidates. It's one thing to be active on social media. It's one thing to join this forum, but it's another thing to go online and actually donate the $17 to the representative's campaign and become a sustaining member. Because while we need social media and we need that advocacy, we also need boots on the ground. So it's important to remember that we've got to take our advocacy beyond social media, beyond Instagram and beyond Twitter, to actually making donations, actually volunteering for someone's campaign, and actually, you know, putting boots to the ground and actually canvassing, which is not one of my favorite things, but it's one of those things that we have to do in order to win. When they go low, we go high, but not just in terms of morality. We need to go higher in terms of the work as well.
A lot of people tell me, oh, I don't like making phone calls, I don't like knocking on doors. But it's the single most important thing that we do in winning elections. And with 2017 being an election where turnout is going to be low because it's an off year, those door knocks and those phone calls can start with people who are already Democrats. You don't have to change anybody's mind. You can go to your neighbors who already voted for Democrats this time and just get them to vote again. We have data that tells us who those people are and how to get to them, and as we help you learn through our shot over the course of the year how to organize, you're going to be able to mobilize and go find those people who already believe what you believe and help to make sure they get to vote and support us in what we're trying to do this year. So it looks like we got a question that I'm being directed about districts that were ruled illegal and will they be redrawn? So here's a technical question. I'm going to jump in on this one. We know, based on the current court order, that at least half of the legislative districts will be redrawn. It's possible that all of them can be, but we're kind of assuming that somewhere between half and 3/4 are. Whichever ones are redrawn probably have to go into this 2017 special election. But again, you're going to need to pay attention to the news. We'll try and keep you informed because that's all going through the courts and it can change over the course of the year. But even if there's not an election in your district in 2017 because of the gerrymandering lawsuit, in 2018 there's going to be an election. And so you can start organizing now for the 2018 elections no matter what. Chaz, you got one more for us to close us out?
I do. So Steve Knight asks, please talk more about why NC is the most important state politically in 2017. Well, one of the things that's so important about our state is that in many ways our state is like it looks like the future of our country. We have a state with many different pockets. We have everything here. And so the fact that we have a state that does have so much, it means that where we go will be a bellwether for the rest of the country. So 2017 has given us a tremendous opportunity. We do have elections when we wouldn't have otherwise thought we would. And so that means that we can start to lay the groundwork for taking back the majority as Democrats in 2020 so that we can start to implement a lot of the things that we think are important.
Yeah. Do you want to add to that, Jessica?
Yeah, I think I will focus on leaving it with going high in so many different ways and thinking outside of the box in terms of how we can make our own personal, individual contributions to the 2017 cycle. It's here, it's a new year, and it's also a new opportunity for us to go higher in so many different ways.
We know the world is watching. We know that what the Republicans did in December with failing to repeal House Bill 2, with taking away Governor Cooper's powers, those things made international news. Everybody knows North Carolina is the most closely divided state in the nation. With these special elections coming up, we are going to have every media outlet looking at what's going on here. If we want to be able to show the entire country that we know how to win in an off-year election, and the strategies that we use in 2017 can be used in the 2018 congressional elections all around the country, we can take back power in Congress and fight back against the Trump agenda. Everybody's going to learn how to do it from North Carolina, and we're only going to be able to accomplish that if you all help. This is our shot. All right. We're going to close it out now. I want to remind you of our 3 calls to action. You go to gregmeyer.com/ourshot, and you're going to be able to find links for all of these. Number 1, help us recruit candidates. If you want to run, go to pipeline.ncdp.org and sign up, and we'll help get you in the pipeline. We need more amazing young people like Jessica and Chaz to help us figure out how do Democrats lead into the next generation. Number 2, we're going to mobilize voters. Don't have to wait for the next episode of Our Shot. Figure out how to get out there and start talking to people in your community. Tell them about what's happening in 2017, how important it is that they stay engaged and not just let them being demoralized take them out of what's going on, but that we have work to do this year. And number 3, we got to fund these elections. The ask for tonight is just $17. gregmeyer.com/ourshot. Send me $17 to keep this going if you can. If you're really generous, consider being a monthly donor at $17 or more. We'd love to have your support. What's next? We are going to give you a chance to discuss it at gregmeyer.com/ourshot. You can see the discussion guide for groups. Even if you're not in a group, if you're not at a watch party and you want to go on the discussion guide, go and check it out. It's a questionnaire form. You can send me information that I'll be looking at to get feedback from you. We're going to continue to do these types of events with your support. Give us some advice of what you want to see us do in the next episodes. You can email me, hit me on Twitter, come to me right here on Facebook. Tell me what are the things you want us to talk about as we roll this out. We haven't figured out when we're going to keep doing these, but we're going to make a plan. Make sure that you like my Facebook page, and when you're on there, you'll be seeing that you're going to hear reminders about Our Shot and what we can do. And finally, it's a television show. We got to do the credits. So this show, Our Shot Today, was produced by Garrett Dixon and James Katecki. Special music by my former student, Pablo Vega. Logo designed by CR2F. And assistance from Allison Stewart, a teacher, Mary Perry, Lisa Hazerjan, and Lanya Shapiro. Thanks to everybody for their contributions. This has been Our Shot. I'm Greg Meyer.
I'm Jessica Holmes.
I'm Chaz Beasley.
Thanks for having us in your homes, and we look forward to working with you this year, 2017. This is Our Shot.